Episode 14, Portal Chaos. Sabrina felt the magical disturbance before she saw it. The air in the town square crackled with discordant energy, making her skin prickle. Through the fragmented lens, she watched in horror as reality split open, the portal's edges writhing with conflicting seasonal magic. The tear matched exactly what she'd read in the Veil journal, not a natural occurrence, but something deliberately crafted. Each pulse of energy followed a precise pattern, like a signature left behind by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Groups 1 and 2, Eastern Containment Formation, she called out to her students. Pride swelled in her chest as they moved without hesitation, arranging themselves in the practiced patterns they'd drilled for weeks. Emily, the skeptical high school student who'd initially doubted magic existed, now stood confidently at the head of her group. Her Halloween-tinged magic blended seamlessly with Maria's spring affinity, their combined power creating a stable barrier around the portal's edge. Through the lens, Sabrina could see how their balanced energies wove together, neither season dominating the other. Noah's detection equipment whirred to life, its lights flashing in an urgent pattern. Sabrina, we've got multiple breaches forming. The signatures are hitting every major ley line intersection in town. Before she could respond, Quill's seedlings burst into action. The small plants they distributed throughout Hallowville began to pulse with magical light, creating a network of flowing energy between the scattered student groups. Through this botanical web, Sabrina could hear her students coordinating their efforts across town. Mrs. Chen's group has a breach contained near the bakery, Emily reported, her eyes closed in concentration as she maintained her portion of the barrier. The community center team needs backup, they've got spirits coming through. Sabrina turned her lens toward the nearest secondary portal, watching as beings of pure seasonal energy emerged. Spring sprites, their forms composed of swirling flower petals and morning dew, collided with Halloween spirits trailing shadow and starlight. The unnatural mixing sent sparks of chaotic magic shooting in all directions. Remember your training, Sabrina called through Quill's network. Don't try to separate them completely, guide them into parallel containment fields. Let them find their own balance. The students adapted quickly, adjusting their magical barriers to create separate but harmonious spaces for each type of spirit. Sabrina watched through the lens as they instinctively mirrored the tree of seasons' natural balance, their magic forming patterns that reminded her of its intertwined branches. Something about those patterns nagged at her consciousness. She adjusted the lens, studying the portal locations more carefully. Each breach bore the collector's distinct magical signature, like a fingerprint left in frost, but there was more to it. The portals weren't random, they formed a deliberate geometric pattern across Hallowville's magical grid. Noah, she called, check the energy readings around the Tree of Seasons. His equipment confirmed her fears. Protection levels are dropping. Each new portal is pulling power away from the central ward network. A thunderous crack drew her attention to the library. This breach dwarfed the others, its corrupted magic seeping into the Halloween decorations that lined the street. Jack-o'-lanterns sprouted vines that writhed with unnatural vigor. Paper ghosts transformed into aggressive flowering creepers that threatened to overwhelm the library's walls. Group 3, with me. Sabrina directed, running toward the library. Groups 1 and 2, maintain your positions. Her students moved in perfect synchronization, their practiced formations adapting to the new threat. The elderly shopkeeper who joined her class to reconnect with his magical roots now stood shoulder to shoulder with a young mother who'd wanted to protect her family. Together, they wove containment barriers that allowed the Halloween and spring magics to exist without consuming each other. Through Quill's seedling network, Sabrina could feel her students' determination. They'd trained for this, prepared for the worst while hoping it would never come. Now, facing real danger, they showed exactly why she believed in them. Focus on the boundary lines, she instructed, using the lens to guide their efforts. Don't try to eliminate either season, create spaces where both can coexist without corruption. The transformed decorations gradually settled into a strange but stable hybrid state. Jack-o'-lanterns still sprouted vines, but now they grew in elegant spirals rather than chaotic tangles. The ghostly flowers took on a haunting beauty, their petals glowing with a mix of spring vitality and Halloween mystery. Sabrina kept the lens trained on the library portal, studying its complex magical structure. The collector's influence was strongest here, their magic woven into every aspect of the breach. This wasn't just a distraction, it was a message. They were showing exactly what they could do to Hallowville's carefully maintained balance. Through the seedling network, reports continued to flow in from around town. Her students held their positions, maintaining barriers and managing the spirits that continued to emerge. Their combined magic, guided by months of training and strengthened by their trust in each other, kept the chaos from spreading further. Through Quill's botanical network, Sabrina felt the pulse of magic flowing between her students like a living symphony. The seedlings amplified their natural talents, helping them discover combinations she hadn't even considered. Near the bakery, Emily's Halloween-touched barrier seamlessly merged with Maria's spring magic, creating a containment field that adapted to each new spirit emerging from the portal. The energies are stabilizing, Sabrina noted through the lens. Keep working in pairs, your magic is stronger together. She watched as autumn leaves and spring petals danced in harmonious patterns, neither season overwhelming the other. Heavy footsteps approached from behind. Status report, Miss Blackwood. Mayor Grange's crisp voice cut through the magical chaos. She'd brought emergency response teams armed with containment equipment, but Councilman Reed pushed forward before Sabrina could respond. "We need to shut down all Halloween magic immediately," Reed insisted, his spring faction pin gleaming. "It's obviously aggravating the situation." With all due respect, Sabrina kept her voice level, that would be disastrous. She gestured toward the library portal where two of her students maintained a delicate balance. "Watch what happens if they use only spring magic." The young mother in her class demonstrated, dropping her Halloween energy. Immediately, the portal's edges began to fluctuate wildly, spring magic alone insufficient to contain its chaotic nature. She quickly restored the balance, stabilizing the breach. "Our town's magic requires both seasons," Sabrina explained to Mayor Grange. "Just like the Tree of Seasons shows us." A sharp spike in magical energy drew her attention to Noah's monitoring equipment. "Sabrina," he called. "The portals are starting to resonate with each other. The pattern matches what we found in the Vale records." Through the lens, she saw it clearly, waves of energy bouncing between breaches, growing stronger with each reflection. If left unchecked, they'd create the same cascade effect that had destroyed that ancient magical hub. "Groups 3 and 4, adjust your containment fields," she directed through Quill's network. "We need to dampen these interactions before they build too much power." But she could see the strain on her students' faces. Emily's hands trembled as she maintained her barrier, while the elderly shopkeeper had begun to sweat despite the cool air. They'd been holding complex magical formations for too long. "Mayor Grange, we need to implement rotating shifts," Sabrina said. "Can your teams support my students while they rest?" The mayor nodded sharply, dispatching her personnel to key positions. Sabrina used Quill's seedlings to coordinate the transitions, ensuring no portal was left uncontained as students cycled through recovery periods. "Mrs. Chen, take your group to the refreshment station," she directed. "Emily's team will cover your section for the next 20 minutes. The lens revealed another troubling detail as she scanned the contained portals. Each stabilized breach left behind a subtle magical residue that seemed to eat away at Hallowville's protective wards like acid through fabric. The pattern was too precise to be accidental. "Noah, are you seeing this?" She adjusted the lens to highlight the deteriorating wards. "The collector isn't just opening portals, they're systematically weakening our defenses." Before Noah could respond, Quill's essence surged through the seedling network with urgent energy. Through the lens, Sabrina spotted the telltale shimmer of new portals forming, each one positioned to exploit areas where their containment efforts had already strained the local magical fabric. "Mayor Grange," she called, "we need more support teams ready. This isn't over yet." She felt Quill's essence pulse through the plants, already helping her students prepare for the next wave of breaches. The temporary stability they'd achieved wouldn't last long. Emily returned from her rest period, looking more focused but still tired. "What's the plan, Ms. Blackwood?" Sabrina studied the emerging portal patterns through the lens, watching as they targeted their weakest points with surgical precision. "We adapt," she said, directing Quill's energy to strengthen their defensive network. "And we prove that balance isn't just our tradition, it's our strength." Sabrina's attention snapped to the tablet displaying Noah's sensor data. Red warning indicators flashed across the screen, showing unauthorized magical signatures near Portal 3. She adjusted the fragmented lens, holding it up to Noah's body cam feed. Through its crystalline surface, she caught sight of a dark figure moving with fluid grace between the shadows. "Noah, by the maple tree," she directed through their comm link. "They're carrying something that's interfering with the portal's containment field." The lens revealed waves of corrupted spring magic emanating from an object in the figure's hands. Its energy signature twisted unnaturally, nothing like the pure spring magic Sabrina had encountered before. The magic pulsed with a sickly green glow that made her stomach turn. "I see them," Noah's voice came through clearly. "They're using some kind of spring-based spell to take down our Halloween wards." Sabrina watched through the lens as the figure systematically disabled their security measures, each burst of magic precise and calculated. The magical signature matched exactly what they'd found at the forest ritual site, the same unsettling resonance that had left traces on the burnt glyphs. "The equipment confirms it's our ritual site visitor," Noah reported, his breathing steady as he moved closer. "Same magical fingerprint." Around Portal 3, Quill's seedlings began to twist and writhe, their leaves turning toward the corrupted artifact. Through their connection, Sabrina felt waves of urgent warning. The lens revealed thin tendrils of poison magic already seeping toward the nearest root from the Tree of Seasons. "Noah, that artifact, it's designed to corrupt the tree's root system," Sabrina said, her voice tight. "The portal's just a delivery mechanism." She watched through the feed as the cloaked figure reached the portal's edge, raising the artifact in a complex pattern. The air crackled with building energy as they began a familiar sequence, one Sabrina recognized from the Veiled Journal's warnings. "Use the countermeasure pattern," she instructed quickly. "Just like we practiced." Noah's response came through his actions. He stepped out from behind a tree, his hands moving in the precise counter-sequence they'd developed. The figure's spell faltered, magic sputtering as the carefully planned ritual collapsed. The figure spun away from the portal, dark cloak swirling. They reached into hidden pockets, scattering small objects across their path. Each one burst with spring magic as it hit the ground, creating a dizzying array of magical signatures that bloomed across Noah's sensors. The decoys, Sabrina realized, adjusting the lens. "They're using the same enchantment as Ivy's demonstration pieces from the town meeting." The magical structure was identical, though twisted to serve a darker purpose. Through Noah's body cam, she tracked his pursuit as he navigated through the false signals. The figure darted between trees, but Noah's knowledge of the park's layout gave him an advantage. He cut through a maintenance path, emerging directly in the figure's path. The sudden confrontation caused the figure to stumble. The artifact slipped from their grasp, its corrupted magic flaring dangerously as it fell toward the portal's unstable energy field. Sabrina's heart jumped. If those energies mixed, the results could be catastrophic. But Quill's essence responded instantly. Green tendrils shot up through nearby plants, wrapping around the falling artifact in a protective cocoon. The corruption's spread halted, contained within Quill's natural magic. "The artifact's secured," Noah reported, moving to apprehend the figure. "But our friend here isn't going to make this easy." Through the lens, Sabrina watched the standoff unfold, knowing they needed answers about both the artifact and its bearer. The portal pulsed behind them, its energy still dangerously unstable, while Quill's essence maintained its protective barrier around the corrupted object. Sabrina's heart pounded as the cloaked figure made a desperate lunge toward the portal. Their dark cloak caught on a broken branch, yanking the fabric aside for a crucial moment. Through the fragmented lens, she saw intricate magical markings spiraling across their exposed arm, glowing with an unmistakable green energy she'd seen before. Noah, those markings! The patterns matched both the collector's ritual site and the spring magic demonstrations Ivy had orchestrated. The connection blazed clear as day through the lens, but before she could study them further, the figure twisted free and vanished through the portal in a flash of light. The portal snapped shut with a thunderous crack, leaving them with only the artifact, still safely contained within Quill's protective plant barrier. Sabrina approached carefully, holding the lens up to examine their prize. The corrupted magic pulsed beneath the surface, but something about its structure caught her attention. "This isn't a complete piece," she said, tracing the partial patterns visible through the lens. "See how the magical channels just stop at these edges? It's like looking at a torn page, there should be more connecting lines." Noah pulled out his handheld scanner, sweeping it over the artifact while keeping a respectful distance from Quill's containment. "Getting some unusual readings here. The magical signature is definitely spring-based, but it's been modified somehow. Engineered to interface with other power sources." Through the lens, Sabrina watched energy flow through the artifact's channels. The pattern reminded her of irrigation systems, designed to redirect and channel magical energy rather than water. "It's meant to tap into the tree's natural energy flow," she realized, watching the magic pulse in sync with distant roots. If they connected this to the right point, they could force it to channel pure spring magic instead of maintaining the seasonal balance. A gentle ripple passed through Quill's essence, and the plants holding the artifact shifted. New symbols began to appear on the artifact's surface, bleeding through like invisible ink exposed to heat. Sabrina's breath caught as she recognized them. "These matched the markings we found in the rooted maze," she said, comparing them through the lens. "The same symbols were carved into that chamber wall, remember? The collector isn't just after the tree's surface energy, they're trying to corrupt it from the roots up." Noah adjusted his scanner's settings, frowning at the readout. "The magical architecture here is precise. This piece was designed to fit into something larger, a ritual circle maybe?" Sabrina shifted the lens, studying how the partial patterns extended outward. The missing connections became clearer, like puzzle pieces waiting to be joined. "You're right. And look at where this section was meant to be placed." She traced the intended position with her finger. "Right at the junction point between Halloween and spring magic flows." If they'd succeeded. A feedback loop, Noah finished. The corrupted spring magic would have fed back into the Halloween energy, amplifying and distorting both until the whole system collapsed. Sabrina suppressed a shudder at the thought. Noah's scanner chirped, drawing their attention to a new reading. "I'm picking up residual traces of our friend's magic. Recent activity, within the last few hours." He adjusted the device, mapping the energy signatures. "They've been busy, looks like they visited at least 3 other locations around town." Sabrina held up the lens, and the magical traces blazed like a trail of breadcrumbs through the park. Each location pulsed with the same twisted spring magic, forming a distinct pattern across Hallowville's magical landscape. Through the lens, she could see how the points connected, forming a familiar geometric shape. "These aren't random stops," she said, watching the pattern emerge. "They're marking out points for something bigger. And if I'm reading this right..." She traced the incomplete shape to its logical conclusion. "I know where they're heading next." Noah studied the pattern on his scanner. "The old greenhouse?" "The abandoned conservatory near the Gilded Grove," Sabrina confirmed. It's the only place that would complete this ritual geometry. Plus, it sits right on top of one of the strongest ley line confluences in town. Through the lens, she could see the magical currents flowing toward that point, like rivers merging into a sea. Whatever the collector planned to do there, they'd chosen their location well. Sabrina approached the Tree of Seasons, her steps slowing as she took in the remarkable sight before her. Quill's seedlings had exploded in growth around the base, their stems and leaves weaving together in an intricate lattice. She held up the fragmented lens, and through its crystalline surface, she could see waves of sickly green energy washing against the living barrier like surf against a breakwater. The seedlings, she murmured, watching them pulse with protective magic. They're defending the tree. Noah crouched beside a cluster of the plants, his scanner whirring. And not a moment too soon. These energy readings are off the charts. Through the lens, Sabrina studied the tree itself, her heart sinking at what she saw. The usual dance of seasons in its branches had turned erratic. Autumn leaves crumbled to dust even as they turned color, while spring buds burst forth only to wither instantly. Summer blooms and winter frost fought for dominance along the spiraling trunk. This matches the historical records exactly, Noah said, comparing his readings to the data on his tablet. The Veil's final days showed the same pattern of accelerated seasonal flux before its magic collapsed completely. Sabrina felt Quill's presence ripple through the seedlings at her feet. The plants began to glow with a soft inner light, their stems and leaves arranging themselves into a precise pattern across the ground. Through the lens, she could see how they traced the paths of magical energy flowing from the tree's roots. "Look at this," she said, gesturing for Noah to join her. "Each portal we've found sits exactly where these energy lines intersect." The lens revealed how the portals pulsed in sync with the root system's natural rhythm, like parasites tapping into a host's bloodstream. The ritual fragment in her pocket grew warm, and she pulled it out. Through the lens, its corrupted magic reached out in tendrils toward the tree, seeking points where Halloween and spring energies naturally merged in the branches above. The artifact's magic resonated with these convergence points, creating discordant harmonics that made her magical senses ache. "They're using the portals like acupuncture needles," she realized, watching the disruptive energy flow through them. Each one disrupts the tree's natural balance at precisely calculated points. The lens showed her how the waves of foreign magic moved in perfect synchronization, following patterns she recognized from the collector's ritual site. Noah's scanner beeped rapidly as he moved it over the seedling barrier. "The plants are strongest here, here, and here," he said, marking points on his tablet. "They match exactly with the locations marked on our maze map." Sabrina used the lens to study these reinforced sections of the barrier. The seedlings there grew particularly dense, their protective magic forming bright nodes of resistance against the corrupted energy. When she mentally connected these points, they formed a perfect geometric pattern with the tree at its center. "It's a containment matrix," she said, recognizing the magical architecture. "Quill's essence is trying to stabilize the tree by anchoring it at these specific points." She traced the pattern with her finger, watching how the seedlings responded to her touch by glowing brighter. Noah overlaid his scanner's data with their maze map on his tablet's screen. "These anchor points, they're not just random strong spots in the root system. They're old power nodes, probably from when the tree was first planted." Through the lens, Sabrina could see how these ancient nodes still pulsed with original magic, untouched by the corruption seeping through the portals. Quill's seedlings had instinctively sought them out, using their pure energy to reinforce the protective barrier. "The collector had to have known about these nodes," she said, studying how the portal positions carefully avoided direct contact with them. They placed each portal just far enough away to avoid triggering the tree's natural defenses. A sudden surge of energy made the lens flare bright in her hands. One of the portals had begun to pulse more strongly, its corrupted magic beating against the seedling barrier like a battering ram. Quill's essence flowed through the network of plants, redirecting power to reinforce that section of the defense. A sharp crackle of energy made Sabrina's skin prickle. She turned toward the sound, watching as reality began to tear open about 20 feet from the tree. The new portal shimmered into existence like heat waves rising from summer pavement, but its magic felt wrong, calculated and artificial. Quill's essence surged through the nearby seedlings, their leaves turning translucent as they channeled its power. Through their connection, Sabrina could suddenly see the portal's energy signature laid bare, not the usual chaotic swirl of wild magic, but precise geometric patterns carrying embedded magical commands. "These aren't random doorways," she said, adjusting the fragmented lens to better study the structure. "Look at how the energy pulses are synchronized." Each wave of magic struck specific points around the tree's base, targeting seasonal nodes with surgical precision. Noah moved his scanner over the new portal. "The frequency matches the others, but there's something else, some kind of carrier signal buried in the magical noise." Through the lens, Sabrina watched dark tendrils of corrupted magic seep from the portal into the root system. The seedlings responded immediately, forming barriers of pure light to contain the spread. But the corruption was clever, it probed and tested each defensive response, like a virus searching for vulnerabilities. "The portals are injection points," she realized, tracking how the tainted spring magic flowed through the roots. "They're not just disrupting the tree's energy, they're systematically introducing altered spring magic into its system." Noah's tablet chimed with completed analysis results. "I've mapped the portal activation sequence," he said, showing her the display. "They're building toward something big, timed exactly to the equinox." He pulled out the ritual fragment they'd recovered, comparing its diagrams to the data. "These instructions, they're not just for opening portals. They're part of a larger working designed to force a permanent seasonal shift." The seedlings suddenly writhed and twisted as a wave of spring magic touched a major root. Through the lens, Sabrina saw these particular roots glowing with ancient power, direct connections to the maze's core. The plant's violent reaction confirmed what the map had hinted at, something crucial lay hidden in the heart of the rooted maze. She studied the tree's responses through the lens, noting how each pulse of corrupt magic triggered specific defensive reactions. "The collector isn't just attacking randomly," she said. "They're testing the tree's defenses, cataloging how it responds to different types of magical assault. Building a blueprint of its vulnerabilities." The lens showed her layers of magical interaction she'd never noticed before, how the tree's natural protections adapted and shifted, how the portal's energy probed and recorded each response. The collector was conducting a methodical magical reconnaissance mission. Suddenly, Quill's essence flooded the area around a particular root junction, making the seedlings glow so brightly Sabrina had to squint. Through the lens, she saw how this single point connected everything, tree roots pulsing with power, portal energies converging in precise patterns, and maze pathways spiraling outward in a complex geometric web. "Oh no," she breathed as understanding clicked into place. "They're not trying to destroy the tree at all." The lens revealed how each portal's position had been carefully calculated to tap into the root network's natural power flows. They're creating a magical framework to seize control of the entire network. "The portals aren't weapons, they're control points." Noah leaned in to study the glowing junction. "Like a magical nervous system? Hijacking the tree's own power distribution network?" "Exactly," Sabrina said, watching the corrupted spring magic probe deeper into the root system. "Once they have control of the network, they could redirect the tree's power however they want." The lens showed her how the portal's positions formed a perfect geometric cage around the tree's magical core, ready to be activated at the precise moment of equinox balance. Through their connection, Quill's essence revealed more details of the collector's methodology, how each portal served as both sensor and conduit, gathering data while simultaneously weakening the tree's natural defenses. The seedlings fought back valiantly, but they were being systematically mapped and countered, their protective capabilities catalogued and neutralized one by one.